So, as we all, I'm sure, talk about tons, basically the only deals getting traded today are the absolute winners, and everything else is really difficult to get the market moving. So, my talk is going to be 100% about what are the winners doing that are so successful that they're having this breakout performance. As I started this talk, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be the next version of what are great DTC brands doing and how can we be better DTC and FBA brands. And I have some very interesting insights for you that I'm really excited to dive into. And we're going to walk through the more operational side. Like, what are these brands doing? What are they? So what is the strategy that they're so successfully executing? So really, there's this incredible era post-COVID of these brands being able to, consumer brands being able to break out and do $100 million in revenue in under 3 years, all while being profitable. So the brands that we're looking at today are not going to be the VC burners, not going to be the people who are torching unit economics. These are brands that actually have scaled, are making money, are profitable, and are growing at clips that I don't think we've ever really seen in this space. Some great examples for anyone who hasn't. We're going to talk about a brand like Comfort, $0 to $200 million in revenue in under 3 years. They are the hottest athleisure brand in the space right now. Grüns, for anybody in the health supplement space, 0 to 100 million in under 2 years, profitable, growing like crazy. And we're going to go over all of these different types of brands and what makes them so successful. So a quick background on myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Horowitz. I'm the GP at Because Ventures, where we acquire $10 to $100 million e-com brands, as well as SaaS businesses. And then as a side project, I write a weekly newsletter called Let's Buy a Biz, where we either analyze the basically failing consumer brands in the public markets of the last 5 years, or these up and coming breakout brands that are, I think, will be what defines the next era. And so a couple of examples of what I think really set the tone here and kind of broke the old mold. Obviously, we all know Mr. Beast and Feastables. It's just insane to think about what they did. He essentially levered hundreds of millions of YouTube subscribers into a $250 million CPG business in chocolate. Right? Very, very boring commodity business, but what he's been able to do and how he's been able to leverage all of the resources available to brands, to me, was the 4-minute mile here. Like, this was the brand that proved it could be done. We're going to go through a lot of other ones. Now, obviously, everyone doesn't have 100 million YouTube subscribers, and it's not Mr. Beast, but Road Skin, I think, is another incredible example. I know a couple other people have talked about it today. To me, this is going to be the deal that then sparks this entire wave of this new generation of brands. 3 products at launch, they sell out in 3 days, crash the website on launch. 3 years later, they sell it to ELF for $1 billion, 212 million in revenue on 10 products, right? It's just like insane to think about a 34% EBITDA margin, stuff we've kind of never heard of. And what I want to prove to you today is it's not just because there was a celebrity or someone, an influencer who was tied to the brand. This is a replicatable process that these brands have proven work. And now all of these other brands with different strategic resources are able to replicate. I think the best one of that, which is kind of in this in-between state of hasn't had a major successful exit yet, but is massive, as Liquid Death. For anybody who isn't familiar, Mike Cesario, an ex-ad exec, creates a viral video for $1,500, blows up, becomes this enormous brand. They're doing $300 million in revenue. No really major influencers or celebrities or other attached backing, but they've leveraged the same playbook of how to leverage algorithms to grow their business in an insanely quick pace, where now there's a ton of other brands that are doing the same thing. And this isn't just for online, right? Like, Liquid Death is in over 100,000 retail doors. This is a model that is now shifting consumer brands in general, not one specific channel. And that's really my kind of thesis today. I think someone who has looked at over 500 deals over the last 5 years. We always ask, is this a D2C brand or is this an Amazon brand? Question's dead. I think it actually doesn't matter anymore. And this new breed of brands doesn't care. And so I'm going to start calling them the DTA brands, direct to algorithm. They go viral at once. They scale with paid across every channel all at the same time. And then they're also in every sales channel, so that basically, essentially, you're leveraging this massive exposure on the consumer side and on the attention side. And then you're just collecting receipts in as many channels as possible, because we've all realized that consumers want to buy where consumers want to buy from. You're not going to force an Amazon shopper to buy from your website. You're not going to force someone who loves shopping on your website to go buy at Target. And so how do you leverage the massive imbalance of all of these social media platforms own all of your customers? Because let's be honest, your Shopify data is essentially just an email. And all of your retail has still 80% of consumer spend in it. And where do we find that proper middle ground? And so really there's this beautiful model where brands can go viral on TikTok, scale across Meta and every other channel, and then immediately use that leverage to get the retail relationships that they need, really, really scale on Amazon so that their old school halo effect immediately drives impactful revenue for their store. So we're going to go over 5 brands to show the 5 pillars of how I think that these brands are really growing and scaling their business, and how everyone in this room can clone them either in your diligence process or for the brands in your portfolio. So we're going to start first with Comfort. Miami-based brand, basically a serial entrepreneur who was looking for the next big thing that would go viral in his Meta account. The genius insight here is they are working with over 600,000 TikTok affiliates on TikTok shops to create all of their ad content. So basically what they do is they've created an entire flywheel where they have basically influencers and not really influencers, customers create all their content that then become their ads. And this is printing money for them. They're profitable. They've done over $300 million in sales in 3 years. And they are the #1 hoodie brand, really, if you think about it, apparel brand on TikTok. And this process has generated a new ad unit for them that they've scaled to over $70 million in revenue. Here's how they do that. They run an entire funnel to acquire these affiliates. Meta ads, outbound campaigns, DM to influencers. They've even started paying their current influencers to hire and recruit more influencers. It's this beautiful evolution of kind of the old MLM model where they're outsourcing all of their ad creative process. There's no creative ad agency or expensive bill there. And what they're doing is because the TikTok creators get affiliates through TikTok shops, they're incentivized to create as many ad units as possible and push as much as possible. The beauty of what the team does is once you join their program, you get added to a Discord community where they coach you to become an expert content creator. They're building a farm of people who don't have big social followings, right? This is not, I'm going to pay you 500 grand to hold my product next to your face. This is, I'm going to give you free product. You're going to figure out 10 angles a day, post 5 or 6 things in a week, maybe even faster volume. What wins, we take with ad dollars and scale across every single channel. And that's where you're going to see social content on every platform, Meta, YouTube, all start to look like YouTube content, because TikTok is now the proving ground for what content works virally. Essentially, everything else will just be paid distribution so you can get as many eyeballs on it as possible. And what they've done is they've just done this so well that now their internal team, which is under 300 people, it's kind of crazy at that scale of revenue, really just manages this army of people and then really manages the advertising dollars behind it to scale it out. Now, what do you do with all that content? How do you actually execute the scale part of that? I'm sure everybody in the room has heard of True Classic at this point. If you haven't, basically the new men's basic where they're selling 30,000 t-shirts a day by basically just running an insane amount of meta ads. And this is commodity products, basic hoodies, t-shirts, pants. What they've done so successfully is essentially their CEO, Ben Yahalom, came out of the Meta Disruptors program, which is the essentially internal Meta team that manages the top 0.1% of your spend. So he was basically managing the top consumer spenders of the last decade. His major insight here was the creative is your targeting. They don't do literally, they just spend 0 time doing manual bidding, manual targeting. They do nothing of that in Facebook. They're literally running all of their creative and let Facebook's algorithm completely determine who sees what content. And if you think about it, it's kind of logical. Fitness content is going to reach a fitness community. If a woman is in the first look of the ad, a woman is more likely to respond to that type of content. But the brilliance and the beauty of this is that, especially when you combine it with the comfort model, you now have infinite amount of content that you can go test. Whatever viral you pull, you run into Meta and run at an extremely high scale. You have an infinite ad engine where you know what's popping on social, what becomes viral, then where you can scale with ads. And you literally just play both algorithms against each other to find what will work, what will scale, and what constantly will refresh your ad group so you can continue to scale, you can continue to be profitable. And the second piece of where the True Classic model really, really works is they run everything on post ad dollar contribution model. So they're not looking at in-platform ROAS. They're not looking at really basic metrics. They're looking at which of these ads is driving the most contribution dollars for us as much as possible. Go create me more ad creative of that. Go put it back in the Meta algorithm. And it's a flywheel that runs and scales. I mean, can't say infinitely, but it's grown incredibly aggressively for them. Now, my favorite example of this, and one of the most interesting lessons that I think a DTA brand really is going to kind of challenge all consumer brands, is an insanely small product catalog. And it's something I think about in diligence all the time is, one hero SKU, you could be, it's one of the greatest risks to the business, but these brands are taking it to the extreme. So for anyone who hasn't heard of Grooms, Chad Janis came out of Summit Partners, where he sat on the boards of Dr. Squatch, Solo, Chubbies, Brooklinen, Thuma, a lot of the best D2C brands over the past decade, and said, how can I do this better? Grooms is essentially AG1 in a gummy bear. They've now launched multiple products, but they hit over $100 million on that one SKU in under 2 years, all while being profitable. And what's crazy to me about their model also, that I think is very counterintuitive to how everyone thinks about a consumer brand, is they are always running an offer. And so pillar 3 is really, what is the offer you are always making to your customers, and do not be discount shy. If you go to Grun's website right now, before you see a product, before you see a review, before you see anything about the actual business, you're going to get hit over the head 100 times with 52% off, right? It's insane to think about. They're giving you 52% off. They don't even want to charge you half of what they think their product is worth. And it's this incredible position where you put in your email, you get 52% off. You look at a product page, you get 52% off. You go to a checkout, you get 52% off. And the offer was what allows them to scale so aggressively on all these channels that then, yes, they're running subscribe and save programs. Yes, they deeply believe in the LTV of their products, that they know once you try their product, you're going to come back and buy more. But that scale has also unlocked a massive Amazon channel for the brand. They're now expanding into retail doors. They're expanding internationally. And they've now launched 4 other SKUs on the same model of essentially just different use cases. Now, if you want to go the opposite direction, Jones Road Beauty is an amazing example of if you don't want to become a discount heavy brand, but you want to run a similar concept. So for anyone who isn't familiar, Jones Road Beauty is Bobbi Brown's new makeup brand after she sold Bobbi Brown to Estee Lauder. Literally waited the day her non-compete ended, launched Jones Road Beauty. 3 years later, they're doing over $100 million in revenue. Pillar 4, and what I love about this example, is you don't need to do all of the external work of the previous examples to get all the same benefit. So how they launch, they have either Bobbi Brown or someone on the team go on TikTok with an incredibly low res, she's sitting on a chair, talking to an iPhone, not that great lighting, no fancy mics, educating people about the product. They do the same process. What works, what pops, how do we scale that across every channel as much as possible? Don't do a lot of targeting, really, really scale it up. What works though, and why I like to combine this with the Grun's example, they launched with 6 products, scaled to 9 figures in revenue. They're doing over $100 million today. They have less than 100 SKUs in their product catalog. And so I think the really important lesson in that is that these algorithms cannot prioritize big product catalogs. You cannot send 100 products to TikTok or to Meta and have it prioritize, what do I pick? You have to be very thoughtful and really think through, almost the algorithm is designing your product catalog for you and what products you prioritize. And then you aggressively scale it. The Miracle Balm, which was that one of those first initial 6 SKUs that they launched, still comprises of about a third of their sales today and is still one of their core hero products. The beauty is, and I think what Jones Road Beauty has done an incredible job of, is they scale Miracle Balm, they find the next product that will hit in an algorithm, they launch that becomes the next major hero product, and they're essentially using what is working from a virality and a spend perspective to determine what are those next major products that we're going to make massive investments in, that then we go aggressively scale. We don't produce anything else. And I think it's a really, really difficult product decision for a team to make, but if you nail it, it clearly works. And then on the product model, because I think this is actually the most operational example, but it's executed through marketing terms that I'm the most impressed with, is Young LA. Fashion apparel brand based out of LA by 2 brothers a couple of years ago. Essentially, their entire model is the drops. So every 2 weeks, they drop a new collection. You have to go to the website to get it. They sell out. You come back 2 weeks later, you get the next model. What they do brilliantly, though, is they use that same affiliate creator model to aggressively promote the drops. So you're getting insane commissions based on people buying the product, and they intentionally never have enough product in stock. So they're manufacturing urgency and scarcity at scale, where all their affiliates are now in a competition to how can we drive the most sales to the product drop, because I'm going to get my commissions on how much I sell. But everybody's also doing the same thing, and we know that there's not enough to sell through. And what this has done is this allow them to unlock unbelievable scale, where they're actually working with the fewest amount of creators of I think anybody in a creator IQ study, and definitely what I've covered today, but they had the highest dollar revenue and earned media generated from those creators because they're so aggressive in their commissions that their creators are willing to create an inordinate amount of content to create it. And so really here's the flywheel is you drop a product, you have everybody compete, you sell out. Then the beauty of the whole model and that last major key piece of why this works and why Supreme was so successful for their exit, all of their biweekly product drops become an event. If I'm a customer, if I like this brand, if I'm following one of those creators, if I'm not on the website at 12 p.m. on Thursday, I know I'm not going to get my product. And I don't need to spend a ton of money in advertising to acquire a lot of new customers or to bring customers back because these things have become events where now I have to get it because the cool person that I follow on social media who loves this brand has made this brand cool. And what's very, very, excuse me, what's very, very interesting about that is that's what Young LA's brand is. Let's be honest, they make apparel, they make kind of cool workout equipment, but there's thousands of fitness apparel brands, but they've built their brand on this model, and they've taken the short-term cash hit of not selling more units that they could have sold in earlier drops to always make sure that there's some demand left so that they come back more and more, and I'm the cool brand that I always have to sell through my inventory. And the beauty of all of these models is that it makes you more profitable. So the three patterns that the takeaways, the extractions here that you really want to think about is first, build the affiliate army. Outsource your OpEx. Don't pay the massive creative agency to come up with really cool ad campaigns for you. Run the volume and let people who are doing it on their own time and dime figure out what works in the algorithm. Then you take that and you can aggressively scale it. The other big piece there also to think about is all those people are potential customers. You give someone a free product, they're going to come back, they're going to try it again, they really like it, they probably will buy customers. And the interesting DTA evolution here is you don't have influencers anymore. You have this kind of hybrid of your consumer and people who create content for you. The second piece is aggressively scale a tight catalog. You have to keep a really, really tight, thoughtful catalog of we're going to trade some short-term revenue in products, tertiary product 3 and 4, so our hero product can scale 2, 5, 10 times as much. All of these are very much power scale businesses. The other important piece, though, that's so important for thinking of a long-term consumer brand, the buyers of Target, Walmart, Nordstrom, whoever, are looking for what's popular on social media for what they need to put in their stores. So if you can have this blowout performance of one product, you're optimizing eyeballs to essentially the peg count and how many slots they need to give you. And so it's really being thoughtful of how you can aggressively scale a very, very small catalog and really win there. The third part is just always being on sale and always making an offer. And this one's probably the most painful one, but let's be honest, customers want a discount. Everybody's a little strapped for cash, and you have to convince people to try your product. Obviously, you need to have a great product on the back end to get them to stay, and that's a different conversation for a different day. But this is the key piece of how the flywheel works in all three components. If you thought this was helpful, or you want to see weekly teardowns just like this, I'll drop the link to my newsletter here. I'll also share the deck in this Sunday's newsletter if you want all the slides and all the notes I have from this presentation. Thank you for the time.